and no amount of representation, really. I mean, this time, for example, one of the authors, I'm not going to say who it is, but one of the authors who was with us actually broke down in tears at one point and saying, how did I ever think that I knew? I thought I knew, but I didn't. And that really is a key thing. I'm not going to do a whole, this is a, but if I could just very briefly, we've just finished the report on this last festival. And, well, on the last one, for example, Andrew O'Hagan, one night, I mean, admittedly after a few glasses of wine and music and so on, but he said, the story here isn't a story about victimization. This is a story about a culture and a people that is alive, that is productive, that can support cultural events at world class, that has roots that are extremely old, and the world is the poorer place if Palestine isn't allowed to become part of it. That was Andy. Now here, just let me very, very brief. This is the report on this last May, which is just finished. And this is, for example, Claire Massoud, a great American writer. However, to thank you for our most amazing and memorable journey, Palestine is firmly in my dreams. And when I stop running, there are images and moments from our trip that come unbidden to mind. Michael Palin, it's been an eye-opening experience for me. And I feel so proud of my fellow writers and of the Palestinians we've met who care so much and work so hard to keep Palestine alive, and so on. So I mean, it really, no, I mean, you just see day by day the journey that people are going on, and as the reality of what's happening sinks in, and the extent of the misrepresentation sinks in, it's like,
Your commitment to Palestine is also reflected in your decision a couple of years ago to translate Murid Barghouti's Aisha Ramallah. Can you, A, both tell me why you wanted to do it, and B, describe for me the process of working, as indeed your mother does professionally, on a text in another language?
Well, firstly, there was a personal reason in that Mourid and Radwa, his wife, are close friends. And Radwa had asked me, and I had said I couldn't because I was working on, I was trying to finish The Map of Love. But I had really, really liked the book. Mourid is a great poet, and this was his first work in prose. And it was so, it was very heartfelt and very real, and at the same time, it was not polemical. It was just totally accessible and very human. So it was given to somebody else to translate, and then about a year later, I was with Radwa, and she said that Mourid was pulling the book, and he wasn't going to have it published in English because he was so unhappy with the translation. And I had just finished The Map of Love and handed it in. And I said, well, I'll have a try. So that's how that happened. I should say, I guess, that I'm not very good at translating from English into Arabic. I mean, I can translate nonfiction. I've translated all my own articles, for example. But fiction, or art in any case, is at a different sort of level of use of language, and I can't do it in Arabic. But working from Arabic into English, my strategy, and it's the same strategy that my mother followed when doing me and when doing all the other things she did, was to stay very, very close to the English text. For example, I couldn't see why the first translator had changed all the tenses in the first 3 paragraphs from present to past. In other words, Mourid starts his book with, I am on the bridge, and there is a drop of sweat coming down coming down my glasses and so on. And this had all gone into the past. And, you can see, of course, that the immediacy is lost. Or, for example, you find one thing that gets done quite a lot is changing the focus of the sentence. And again, I don't really see why, changing the order of the words so that the focus of the sentence actually gets lost. There are lots of things like that. So I just really stuck to the Arabic. And I discovered something really quite interesting. I found that it was quite the physical process of reading and then turning to type and then turning back and finding where I had been reading was quite cumbersome. And what I did was I got a dictating machine and I read the book in Arabic and spoke it in English at the same time. And that sort of captured the immediacy of it, made the process a lot less boring. And I think it sort of kept it alive. Now, after that, that was transcribed and I went through and edited it. But I think that sort of almost surprising myself as I went on, because I didn't know what was coming next, and I was just sort of saying it as I read it. I think it worked to sort of give the book a certain vitality. I also checked with Murid on words that I didn't understand, like the names of certain Palestinian games, and I also asked him for his permission to change certain things, like he goes into questions, for example, a lot. ألم يكن هذا, etc., several, one after the other. And rhetorically in Arabic it works. In English it's overblown. And I asked him if it was okay to turn these into statements and maybe get rid of a couple. So if there were 7, you would have 5. And he said yes. I also got rid of all the titles. So التقينا بالدكتورة فلانة والأستاذة فلانة وكذا, which of course in Arabic is absolutely fine. And it would sound rude not to do it because they're all living people. But in English, it's tremendously sort of cumbersome and archaic. And so we just went into names. And, but I was very lucky because he just, said yes.
Radwa and Murid have a fascinating literary relationship within their marriage. I'm intrigued by your experience of living and working in the same house as your late husband, Ian Hamilton. How did it work with the two of you, both being professional word wranglers?
Well, I felt very, very, very lucky because he was a great editor, as well as a poet and an author and so on. He was a terrific editor, which meant that if he liked something, you could be pretty sure it was good. And also when something was wrong, if I felt that something, I'll give you an example. There was a passage in the Map of Love where I wrote it. I wrote it through a letter. The Map of Love, it's sometimes letters, it's sometimes journals, and it's sometimes direct. And it was a difficult passage. I can't actually remember exactly which one. But I wrote it through a letter because of its difficulty. And I knew I was